or swords?
Take this time to consider your past deeds.
Stop asking questions. You had your chance. Let the games begin.
Well met, visionaries, and welcome to Velen's Chosen. We're the podcast geared to buff your Hearthstone game, and we exist to help anyone stay competitive on the ladder without breaking your bank or your card pool. So we talk gameplay, we talk deck construction, we talk news and arena skills just to make you a bit better and accomplish your Hearthstone goals, no matter what your card restrictions may be. Joining me today is Andrew Brown on vacation.
Hola. But I'm not in Mexico, so that's confusing. So never mind.
And then we have the one and only Canadian relative to her position geographically. We have Evemartyn. What's up?
Relative to my position
I don't know. I had to come
am
up with
Canadian. I'm not just in Canada. I am Canadian. My kids are on spring break right now as well, too. So that's.
Are they in the basement?
No, they are not.
Okay.
Running joke.
You guys have to go back a lot of episodes to get that one. And then we have Joe, the Hamboy 12, on the show, our resident guest and professional opinion. What's going on, Joe?
How's it going? I'm happy to be here and talk about all these wonderful new cards that I don't like. So
I was like, I thought that you weren't having high hopes for these, and you took it there.
We bring the optimism
and the
Joe
Ben Stein
the
opinion of
the
science.
realism, yes.
brings us back down to earth.
Joe is going to science the crap out of these cards. And I'm your main host, RobMay. I push the buttons, I set up OBS, and absolutely make sure that the stream drops at least once during the show. So we have a really packed show, let me tell you. Like, I know I say that every once in a while, but this week is just ridiculous. We have so many things going in many directions. Today's show, just from the top, if you want to get a little bit of an outline, for those of you on the audio section especially, we're going to talk about real quick just what decks we are playing this week, or had been playing, even if they were a little bit. Maybe a little bit about Brawl. We actually are going to change the discount deck of the week this week and up until standard releases to deck doctoring, something that Delay and Firebat had started doing a couple months ago, and we're just going to do it with what you guys have sent us in. So for those of you listening, if you can't see the decks, we're going to have one of us read through all the cards really, really fast. And then if you want to watch the live stream, VODs, or the YouTube, we have updated our servers like Hearthstone, and we're going to put some images on the stream.
Semi-professional or something.
Yeah, and we're going to do card reviews, sort of. Like, we're not going to really review the cards. We're just going to talk about them because we don't have enough cards right now to make a review that's accurate.
And we have discuss the cards.
Yeah, and then we have a crap ton of news to blast through and some emails. So,
yay!
Let's kick it off with our first segment, which is the discount deck of the week substituted for deck doctoring.
What a contraption!
Isn't she scrumptious? She's my revolutionary, non-pollutionary mechanical wonder.
All right, so our first deck is Joe's favorite one. It's Murloc Secret Paladin.
Heyo!
And I have this ready for the stream and for those of you watching on video, so let's pull that up. This is a deck that comes from Ben, and he, I think he talked with Andrew beforehand about this deck, right?
He did, yeah. Well, so he just hit me up on Hearthstone and said, hey, would you mind playing against me with this deck I've been working on? I was like, no, of course. So we played a couple matches, and it was really fun to look at because he's basically combining Murloc Paladin with Secret Paladin. And I know that these decks are typically less effective overall because you're kind of trying to do too many things at once, but I really enjoy it because I mean, you have the typical, you put down a knife juggler, shielded mini-bot, muster for battle, but then all of a sudden a Murloc war leader comes out of nowhere. It's like, wait, what? That means that and then see Mysterious Challenger comes out. It's like, wait, it just throws off the opponent a little bit, and I like that element of surprise. So It was fun to play against, but we got some suggestions. We go
All
through
right,
the deck
so
list real quick.
let's go. Yeah, just read through the deck list real fast.
We got 2 Avenge, 1 Competitive Spirit, 2 Noble Sack, 2 Redemption, 2 Secret Keeper, Sir Finley Murgleton, a Noyatron, 1 Bluegill Warrior, 1 Knife Juggler, 2 Shielded Minibot, a Divine Favor, 2 Muster for Battle, 2 Murloc War Leader, True Silver Champion, 2 Murloc Knight, 1 Old Murkai, 2 Mysterious Challenger, Tyrion Forge Ring, and of course 2 Anything Can Happen. Because anything could. You got to be ready for that if it does.
And Tyrion because of reasons, paladin reasons.
Yes, absolutely.
If you have
so the first thing that almost all of us agreed on is that you got to have 2 Bluegill Warriors in here in order for Murloc Paladin to work. Yeah, those charge minions are just too valuable. So and sometimes you don't even get Old Murkai or a second Bluegill. So to have that second one in there is huge. I also would put in a Divine Favor just because you don't have as much card draw.
Well,
and that
Joe,
would be
Joe, Andrew, Eve. Let's back this up a little bit and do what we do for Deck Doctor, right? Or for Discount Deck. We show the deck, and we say, what is this deck trying to do? Like, what is the synergies? What is win conditions? All right.
Yeah.
So just looking at his deck, what is he trying to do? Joe, you can probably see this quicker than most of us because you.
Well, the issue is that he has 2 win conditions, right? You have the win condition of Secret Paladin, which is make a big board, then play Challenger, and then they just they can't ever deal with it, and you just punch them in the face a couple times and win. And then you have the other win condition, which is the Anyfin Paladin win condition, which is just play all your Murlocs, don't die, and then play Anyfin and win that way. So it kind of has like 2 separate like ways that it wants to win the game.
The big thing that's missing from the typical Murloc list is any kind of heal, because typically in a Murloc Pally list, you've got 2 antique heal bots, 2 lay on hands. You've got 1 True Silver, but that's 4 health tops.
Do you have any taunt, any sledge
The Anoyatrons, I'm guessing, are there for that.
Okay, so that'd be there.
And Tyrion.
But if you have Tyrion.
But I think that might be a key weakness. I don't know that you can put those in necessarily. Yeah. I mean, what do you think, Joe? Or is there I'm guessing the Anoyatron and the Murloc Knights were the easiest things to look at as far as taking out, but what would you put back in for those?
This card, you can't play. The thing with Anyfin is you want all your Murlocs to do something when you play Anyfin, so you can't play Murloc Knight or Sir Finley. Because they don't do anything.
Because they don't have charge.
If you're like locked in on the Anyfin thing, you can't play those because they make Anyfin like a lot worse.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want Double Redemption. Double Redemption's pretty bad. So that's 4 cards cut. But you add a Bluegill. You definitely want another Knife Juggler. What else is this deck missing? Instead of Murloc Knights, you can just play Shredders.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, that was the first thing I noticed. I was like, Murloc Knight gives you a little bit of RNG, and it's actually a 6-drop card for mid-range rather than a 4-drop card because you actually want to activate it.
And maybe
Murloc
1
Knight
lay
is
on
fun
hands.
to play to get things out of, but it doesn't fit in with either the Murloc side or the Secret Paladin side. So
the issue here is that like the Anyfin win condition is really hard to pull off. That's why if you look at like Murloc Paladin, it has so many stall tools. Like literally the entire deck is Murlocs plus Anyfin, and then things that make sure you're not dead
or draw.
So when you play a deck that's constructed like this, the issue you're going to run into is your early game will probably be fine because you're going to play the Secret Paladin early game. You'll have a couple slightly worse cards with Murlocs, but it might not be the biggest of deals. But then you're going to get to like turn 6 and you're going to play Challenger, and then you're just going to be doing nothing. Another issue you're going to have is that Anyfin, you don't always just top deck Anyfin on turn 10. A lot of times it's in your hand in the early game. So when you're like trying to like get the board early as you want to do a Secret Paladin, having Anyfin in your hand is a huge problem, especially when you run all these secrets that are super low value cards that make your hand empty quickly.
Yeah, the actually, if you take out Mysterious Challenger and then you take out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 secret oriented cards plus Secret Keeper, that's a third of your deck. So if you eliminate all of the secrets from your deck, you're actually able to include board clears, humilities, Aldor Peacekeepers to neuter your opponent.
That's just an entire. Then you're just playing Murloc Paladin.
Right.
If
So
the goal is to play like Murloc plus Secret Paladin, which is like it's a rather out there idea.
Here's what I'm wondering: could you take out one of each secret and one mysterious challenger? Just have the one as kind of a catch-all.
It's an alternative win condition, right?
Yeah.
Run one-ofs of the secrets. You can probably still run 2 challengers, just because a turn 6/6/6 isn't like the worst thing in the world, and it makes it more consistent. And you really want to like not draw. You really want those secrets to get pulled out by the challenger.
I mean, if you can just have the normal Murloc play style until turn 6 and then throw down a challenger, that's going to not only throw him off mentally, but also throwing all those secrets in at once when you probably got at least 1 or 2 minions on board is still really good.
The issue with that is that the reason Challenger on 6 is so good is because the minions you have on board often synergize with it. Things like Haunted Creeper and Shielded Minibot are 100 times more difficult to deal with if you have to think about things like Avenge and Redemption at the same time as well. Bluegill Warrior is not scary when it gets redemptioned.
Yeah, it just dies. The other thing that the deck was missing is board clears early. So again, if we want to drop a lot of those secrets off early and we're killing off the Murgleton, you can simply, if you have the dust or the cards, you can get rid of your Anoyotrons by getting rid of your early game entirely and your Secret Keepers and just putting in 2 Doomsayers and or Humilities. So it does run a little bit closer to
deck.
Right.
It's really tough to play.
So you have to play
and
it,
muster for battle.
You can't really play this kind of a deck and make it like 1/3 this, 1/3 this, and then fill in the last third with whatever you want. That's kind of what this deck looks like it is right now. But like what you can do is you can tighten it up and you can actually make it, 20 cards this, and then like 10 to 8 cards Murloc, right? So it's Secret Paladin with like 8 supporting Murloc cards. It's kind of what Egg Paladin was, right? The Egg Pally list that Joe was talking about a couple weeks ago. It's mostly Secret Paladin with like a little bit of Egg, or it was Aggro Paladin with Egg, right?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that like when you do things like that, it doesn't change your game plan very much. When you put anything in your deck, it changes your game plan drastically.
Right.
But I like the idea of just playing Secret Paladin and then just trying to pull off anything. It will probably make like the Control Warrior matchup slightly better. The issue you're going to run into is that a lot of times your hands are going to suck. But
it's going to be really
divided rather than
I like Andrew's idea of cutting some secrets to try to remedy that, because secrets also make your hand suck.
Yeah, I like cutting all of your secrets to 1/ofs and then getting rid of the Secret Keepers and Murgleton and the Noatrons, putting in Creepers, a second Bluegill, a second Knife Juggler, and then 2 mini-bots. I like that to like strengthen your early game and diminish the likelihood of grabbing secrets.
Yeah,
do what Eve said and grab Shredders instead of the Paladin. Murloc.
If you can find room, I like Belcher in both Secret Paladin and Anyfin Paladin. So I think Belcher is a really obvious inclusion here as well.
You might try to actually get rid of another card somewhere, maybe a second challenger to get a Consecrate in here, because there's just no way to deal with the board.
I mean, the idea of playing Secret Paladin a lot of the time is that you just don't fall behind. Although I do run 1 Consecrate in mine, because sometimes you do.
Right.
You just have to ask yourself like what you want to do with this deck, honestly, is do you just really, really want to make these 2 work together, or do you want to ladder up?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, here's the cool thing, to his credit. He told me he got to rank 11 with this deck, with this build, which is impressive in my book. He did fall back to 15. But, yeah, so...
I mean, you could realistically, any player could probably take a 50% win rate deck to 11. It just matters how the streaking falls, right? Like how many of those games you streak together to get those stars to push.
Sure.
But so let's push to the next deck, because we're already behind, and we're gonna talk through Ben's deck. We're gonna talk through Saji's deck. Saji's deck is a little bit different. He gave us an email, which I'm going to actually have Eve read if she has it in front of her.
Yeah, I got it.
So we'll do that first.
I just found your podcast, and I'm really liking what I'm hearing so far. I wondered if I could tap into some sage-like advice on a Reliquary Seeker Warlock deck I used extensively last season. It had a win rate right around 60% from ranks 20 to 13. I've only gotten to rank 13 once before, so this is an awesome place for me, but I plateaued and couldn't push past it. I basically tried to flood the board with minions to combo into bigger value stuff. I've had thoughts of adding Power Overwhelming and Sea Giants, but since I had such success with it, I'm a little fearful to change anything. Well, I'm all for Power Overwhelming in any Warlock deck.
It's just
a really good card. Yeah.
So I put the list on stream. I'll read through it this time. Double PO, double Reliquary Seeker. Reliquary Seeker. Like I've gotten a few things like this. Side note: a few people have tried listening to the show, don't really understand each card and what they do. If you're listening, again, we're trying to give you as much help as we can within our given time. So explaining every individual card to give you intermediate to advanced knowledge on the cards is really challenging. So I think that moving forward, we're not going to be able to do something like that for our listeners. But
just pause the show.
Just pause the show and go look up the cards that you're seeing on this screen. That's why we're doing the live shows now. We're trying to include stuff on the stream so you can go and say, oh, that's that card. Let me go see what it does. Or you're even able to see a little bit of a pip screen of what the icon is on the card and the art. And you're like, okay, I can identify that with the art better than the name. So double PO, double Reliquary Seeker, 1 Void Caller, 2 Chows, 2 Dark Bombs, or Zombie Chows, sorry, 2 Dark Bombs, 2 Dark Peddlers, 2 Haunted Creepers, 2 Harvest Golems, super old school, I like it. 2 Imp Gang Boss, 2 Implosions, 1 Gormok the Impaler, double Antique Healbot, 1 Frostwolf Warlord. Nice, basic card, I like it. Double Sludge Belcher. Is that other?
Wobbling Runts.
Oh yeah, 2 Wobbling Runts.
A deck with Wobbling Runts in it. Yes.
Dr. Boom, 1 Sea Giant, and a Kel'Thuzad.
Here's one thing I do want to say is that when I was starting out with Hearthstone and playing Warlock and didn't know much about the game, Power Overwhelming seemed like a bad card to me as a new player because it destroys your minion afterwards. Mm-hmm. So I was reluctant to play it. And then after I saw its synergy with different cards, like board clear and different things like that, and then buffing other minions, I understood that it has a lot more uses than just a one hit and then kill your minion.
The big thing is it lets you trade up.
Yeah.
Which actually leads to my first thing that's not in this. Well, okay, we talk about win conditions here now.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah. Synergies and win conditions.
So he wants to flood the board, obviously. He's got Sea Giant to take advantage of that, and Frostwolf Warlord, which is an interesting choice to take advantage of that, and Gormok. So he's got a few things there. He's got a lot of early game minions to establish board control and rush the enemy. A lot of Death Rattle minions or minions like Imp Gang Boss that you get value out of attacking with them. And then KT's thrown in, I'm guessing, as a late game answer to just extend your reach and not run, or to really just double the value of any card if you can pull it off correctly. There's some interesting things missing, like Abusive Sergeant from this list.
Nerubian Eggs.
And Nerubian Eggs. And there's some interesting choices like Antique Healbot I don't think I've ever seen in a zoo list. And then Frostwolf Warlord and Wobbling Runs. I love that we get to talk about those because I just like it when people are trying to make those work. And for this archetype, this is probably the archetype to make it work because they're very much flood minions.
This is like a mid-range / rush list. You know what I mean? Like my first thing is like, this is a rush deck? I was like, you have so much late game for rushing.
That's true. That's a really good point.
So I think this is better tailored to being more of a early game zoo, but you're running Zombie Chow. So like Zombie Chows and zoo normally don't go in the same sentence.
Well, and the interesting thing is the Reliquary Seekers, though they're 1 mana, they're not early game. They're late game.
Exactly.
So really there's not... Zombie Chow and Voidwalker, he's only got 3 1-cost minions.
That's not
for
rushing.
2 cost, he's only got Dark Peddler and Haunted Creeper. And then he's got Harvest Golem, Imp King Boss. So typically, I mean, for a zoo, especially a fast zoo list, you want to have a lot of 2 and 3 drop minions. And he doesn't have many.
So we want Flame Imp?
I would say
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that he's trying to do something different. I think Rob was absolutely right that this is more of a mid-range late game zoo, actually, rather than I'm just going to flood it completely and then overwhelm him.
To
Yeah,
me, it seems like he made a deck like I do. You pick a theme, and then you look through all of your cards and put in cards that seem to go with that theme, which is fill the board with minions to make your Reliquary Seeker, or not the Reliquary Seeker, the one that becomes an 8/8 if you have the rest of the minions on board.
No, that's Reliquary Seeker.
Oh, it is?
It's a 5/5 though.
I was right.
If
5/5. Yeah, like get enough minions that will stay on the board and have enough minions on the board to make Sea Giant and Reliquary Seeker work, basically.
Yeah. And even in this deck list, I feel like, sadly, the 2 cards that are included actually as doubles of, it would actually cut your deck down to 26 cards you'd have to replace again. But I would not play the Wobbling Runts or the Antique Healbots because they actually don't help you with your game plan. Even if it is that mid-range list, like very rarely will you see mid-range decks running a hard heal unless they want to. Like, I feel like the heal bots are basically, you run one of those and like maybe 2 Sludge Belchers, or you run 2 heal bots and 1 Sludge Belcher and fill up 3 slots if you're going to do it. And then the Wobbling Runts are a late game card and yet don't really have that big of a late game impact unless KT's already on the board.
I think you really need something to buff them. So the Power Overwhelming or the Abusive Sergeants, something like that. Like, I'm guessing he put them in because he really wants to play with them, which I'm totally for. They may not be as effective as other cards, but in order to make them work, I think you have to find a way to buff them. Because if they're just 2 attack, they're only going to trade up with 2 cost 3 2s at the best, which isn't, especially in the late game, you're not going to have a ton of that.
Okay, well, let's have Joe kind of weigh in a little bit, and then we'll have to conclude this right after that, and then we'll go on to the cards of the week.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Healbot is like does not belong in this deck. Wobbling Runts is really bad, and something you guys didn't mention is Kel'Thuzad is just, you can't, like, it's just a bad card.
Kel'Thuzad is something you put in a deck if you don't have a lot of legendaries. If you don't have Ragnaros, if you don't have, what is the Warlock legendaries?
Jiraxis and Mal'Ganis.
Don't forget Wilford Fizzlebang.
Of course.
I was forgetting him. Yeah, I used it back in the day when I had no legendaries and it was my only legendary. I put it in Tempo Mage and I won matches because people just don't expect it. You put it behind a taunt and it's just like practically game over.
The thing is that this deck really, like, you really, really, really want to just grab the board as early as possible. Cards like Kel'Thuzad will come down when this deck is already either won or lost.
It's a win card.
Wobbling Runts is the same way. Frostwolf Warlord is just not, like, just play Sea Giant. You clearly have a Sea Giant. Just play 2 Sea Giants instead. It'll do exactly the same thing, except oftentimes
and then you can even do what the Chinese list is doing and replace Kel'Thuzad and the Wobbling Runt, or with your... with, like, what he's saying, second Sea Giant and an Enhanso. Like, the Enhanso Mechano is just... They end the game sometimes.
They might not have Enhanso Mechano, but that is definitely...
Yeah, you don't want Belchers in this deck. You don't want Wobbling Runts. You don't want Kel'Thuzad. You don't want Healbot. You don't want Frostwolf Warlord. You just want early games, right? You have Warlock Hero Power, so you don't need to play late game cards because you can often just play 2 early game cards in the late game and tap, so your hand never empties. In other decks, you have to have a curve like this, but Warlock's kind of unique in the fact that you're always going to have a full hand because of what your hero power does. So you want more early game, like they mentioned, more 1-drops. A second Voidwalker, double Flame Imp is probably fine as well. This deck could definitely use a Knife Juggler. In terms of
Juggler is so good.
Yeah, with
Nerubian Eggs are also a card I think you really want. I would maybe put in 1 or 2 Defender of Arguses. That'll kind of replace the defense that you lose from Sludge Belcher. You can also run Abusive. Maybe cut 1 Chow and run, because like having Chow to seize the board early game is nice, but it is pretty dead late game. Yeah. So you can run 1 or 0 Chows, but I definitely don't think you want to run 2.
I think if you want to run the Chow, go ahead, Andrew.
I think just to clarify, like we're really gearing him towards a typical standard zoo list, and if he's willing to admit that this list does kind of tend more towards late game, the reason we're kind of trying to push it back is because with this list currently as it is, you're going to have your hand full with a lot of late game minions early in the game. You're going to keep tapping. Your hand's going to be full. You're going to have nothing to play. And then by the time it's turn 4 or 5, unless your opponent's control, you're going to be gone.
Yeah, the reason that there's not
Twilight Drake in
many.
hand.
Yeah, the reason why there's not many Warlock decks, we'll close with this actually. Like, the reason that the Warlock decks don't really have hardly any of their decks geared towards mid-game focus, and then sometimes ending right after the mid-game, is because they can't necessarily do that based off of the hero power. Like, the hero power helps them become extremely aggressive and fill their hand at the same time, which is very rare, because usually you're dumping your hand and you're not really able to draw. Warlock allows you to dump your hand and draw almost every turn. And then if you're going to the opposite of the pole, you have a control archetype where you want to always have a lot of cards, and this 2 damage draw a card is just always available to you. And then you have lots of healing and control cards. So it kind of is just a polar class. There's nothing really in between that really helps you do it. And the demon synergy was the only other archetype that even helped you bridge the gap to just stick around in the mid game, because the void callers would die in the mid game and give you an in game card like Mal'Ganis or freaking Jiraxis when it dies, and then you just put down a Defender of Argus and it's taunted,
Which
and it gives 4/16. So
yeah, the only reason that you don't play Zoo or Handlock is because you don't have the cards, or you want to specifically try something different. Because the meta has been out so long that these are just the best Warlock decks, period.
yeah.
So you only play this deck if you just really want to try and make something else work and have fun, because it's just not as efficient as the other two.
Yeah, and it goes back to your goals.
Yeah.
Again,
so
to
if
his
your
credit-
goal is to make this work, that's fine, but you know that it's going to have some weaknesses.
And to his credit, rank 13 is pretty good with this deck.
Yeah.
It's good.
Okay, you guys ready to move into some new cards? I'll actually play the bumper.
Yeah!
New cards.
The might of Dalaran has arrived.
All right, new cards, dudes and dudette. All right, so what we got? Our first card is a Paladin card. It is the Stand Against Darkness. I just read this in Uther's voice like every time I see this card.
That's good. That's appropriate.
That was actually really good. I could hear that coming out of Uther.
Forbidden Shaping. Yeah, we'll get there, Ghostwalks. Don't worry. All right, so it's a 5-mana card. It's a spell for Pallies. Summon 5 1/1s. So use your hero power more efficiently on turn 5.
And
Basically.
what are the initials of the card?
SAT.
We need another quartermaster, so I need to see more
Exactly
cards.
what this card is.
Yeah, it's gonna, like, if you ever
didn't
wanted
even
just a
see
way
that.
worse muster for battle, like, here you go.
Yeah.
Okay, here. What do you think about it in Arena? It's a common spell.
Still-
I mean, I think
Pretty
you have to
bad.
combo it with like Knife Juggler or with Quartermaster in order for it to be valuable. And both of those are so high.
Well,
You can't depend on
you
that.
got to run this by the vanilla test. We haven't bowled this out in a while. The vanilla test is basically a 5/5 for 5.
Yeah.
That's all it
Yeah.
is.
You want
Pit
at
Fighter's
least a
better than
5/6.
this card.
If you
It's
got
a
it,
5/5 for 5
that died to
like,
any
Arcane
board
Missile.
clear ever.
It dies to a
made.
3-mana Phantom Knives.
yeah, if you had, if it gave you a Light's Justice,
Maybe.
would that make it better? I mean, it would make it better, but would it,
It
make
wouldn't
it
make
worth
it worse.
We're hoping
That's
there's going to be some kind of synergy card that comes out.
Okay,
Because, yeah.
What if it gave you a True Silver Champion?
Oh, that'd be pretty good, yeah.
That would be interesting.
Hype
Give you a
train.
4-mana weapon plus 5 1/1s for 5.
That would
I
make
think
me
it's
stand
really
against the
happy with
darkness.
this
That
one.
True
Or-
Silver.
Or what if it was 5 2/2 Squires or 3 2/2 Squires?
What if it was just Onyxia for 5 mana? Like,
Okay, next
We're
card.
trying to make these cards work, and it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
'cause that's
It
what
doesn't
is.
help. All right,
it is
Eve.
strictly
Are you ready
better
for
than
your
Dark
favorite
Whisper,
card?
So really
Yeah.
fast.
Eve's favorite card.
Except for it doesn't give you the option of giving something +5/+5.
Oops.
Yeah.
Oops. It's not showing up. What happened to it? There it is. Eve's favorite card. Hogger, the Doom of Elwyn.
Yay!
Predictions, boys. Am I right?
That was impressive, Eve.
I was happy to see this card because I know everyone's been ripping it down and saying it's going to be awful, but I'm going to make it work. I'm going to put this in my deck.
You're gonna pull a Shockmaster.
Yeah,
That's right.
Put it in Mage, ping it myself, and give myself all the 2/2s.
And then don't
I mean,
forget to
the-
include Ice Howl.
The first thing I thought of was that obviously like this is Patron's best friend because it works. It has all the same conditions where you're trying to do damage to your board and the opponent at the same time. Now without Death Spite, I don't know if it's going to work as effectively, but this could be an interesting include in that deck.
Yeah, if they add like another patron tool, like some other whirlwind effect, I don't know what it would be, but you're losing on
Sea Reaver.
Despite.
We didn't
coming back.
Time out. We didn't hear. I forgot that for the audio listeners, we didn't tell them what the card does. So this is a 7-mana 6/6 minion that's neutral, legendary. Whenever this minion takes damage, summon a 2/2 null with taunt. So a damage-enabled Hogger as opposed to a 4/4 for 6 that summons a 2/2 null at the end of your turn.
Yeah. So basically, it's going to be really hard to remove without doing damage to it. So you're going to get a 2/2 null out of it most of the time, unless they use something like Hex or...
unless they use a transformational removal card.
Yeah, the issue with this card is not that they're going to trade into it, it's that they're not going to trade into it. You're going to play a 7-mana 6/6 on turn 7, and they're just going to hit you in the face a bunch of times. The important
thing to compare it to is Trogzor.
Trogzor.
The Earthinator? Yeah, okay. I just remember Strongbad and all that. So that was a 7-mana 6/6 that if you cast a spell, it summoned a Burly Rockjaw Tride. And I remember thinking that card's going to break the game, but it ended up being really nothing.
They just don't play spells and they smack you in the dome.
This could be better because it is a little bit different, but we still don't know for sure. So
I think it is a little better just because it's not like everything that comes out of this interacts with spells like Trogzor. This is a card that's going to hit something, whether they hit it or you hit it, and you're going to get a taunt. So this is like a free taunt card on the turn it's played, on your opponent's turn, or on your next turn. And then somebody else in the chat brought up a good thing that this could make Bolster Warrior thing. Like this thing can hit something, you can throw...
Sparring partner
on it, and yeah, exactly. So you can do
pretty sure it won't make the thing. Not to like rain on your parade.
Legendary.
The taunt is always good, especially against aggro decks.
And again, like this is kind of like a worse Anubisath Sentinel for me because I feel like Anubisath Sentinel, you just play that and warrior over this. Because it just always gives you a 1/1 and it's 7, so it's like a better version of Hogger. It's still disruptive and it's common and it's.
You mean the Obsidian Destroyer?
The Obsidian Destroyer. I'm sorry. Anubisath Sentinel is the 4/4 that gives 3/3
as well. Yeah. But yeah, I think they're both pretty like suboptimal cards. They're almost good, but not quite good enough.
That's right. It's a 6/6, so it doesn't die to BGH.
We got some better cards to talk about, so we can keep moving.
All right, let's go to the Giant Sandworm. Eve, why don't you let them know what this card does?
It's 8 mana, Hunter Beast Epic minion, 8/8. Whenever this minion kills another minion, it may attack again. Now, I didn't realize it when I first read it, but it can keep attacking.
It's like, not just Wind Fury. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not just like gets one more attack. It's like as long as it kills a minion, it can keep attacking. So if you're up against something with a bunch of little 1/1s on the board, it's like bang, 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 kill them all.
Yeah, an interesting synergy that I think Andrew mentioned, we were talking about this earlier in the week, was like Bestial Wrath or something like
Stable Master.
Yeah.
Stable Master. So if you can find a way to get this card down, it's going to be really good. The issue I think that we're going to have is like getting it down because it doesn't have charge. So you kind of...
The only other thing is Tundra Rhino because that would give it charge. Yeah. So if you're able to get a Rhino on board and then be able to play a Giant Sandworm, you could completely obliterate your opponent.
Yeah, but the combo with like Sandworm plus making it immune is so good that I think if there's even like a semi-feasible way to make it work, it might be a viable deck. I think if you're gonna need like more tools in this expansion to make a deck like that work.
Yeah, I agree with that. Exciting. I think it's really cool because this is essentially a better version of Ice Howl, I think. Like, it's kind of the same genre, but instead of it targeting a minion, they say you can have the option of hitting a minion with an upside, and they don't let you charge right away. So they basically take away the charge aspect of Ice Howl, and they make it better for when it can attack. So if you put this on turn 8, and then turn 9, you can Bestial Wrath this thing, you can clear your opponent's board and hit them for 8. And if you can't clear your opponent's board and this thing lives and it doesn't take any damage, for instance, let's say there's like a 7 attack or 6 attack minion on board, you have a single target removal of a huge minion, and then you hit him in the dome for 8. That's really strong.
What's really exciting to me is that we're talking about all these cards that really have never seen functional play before. And we don't know for sure if this deck's going to work, but I think what Joe said is that there's a, if this is semi-feasible, at least that this could be a counter at least to something, or it could be game breaking. Who knows?
Yeah, I love this card.
Ram Wrangler.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Imagine getting this off a Ram Wrangler. It's just like undeniable. It's so scary.
One more thing to note is that it's not a legendary card, because I thought at first when it came out that it would be a legendary.
Epic, yeah.
So you can have 2.
Again, this is going to break a lot of our listeners' banks that are in that budget region. Like, you're probably not going to get 2 of these out of your first 50 packs if you pre-ordered, and you might not even get either. Because that's 134 cards, and, the rarity of the epics is pretty crappy. So you may not get this card. All right.
I like that it's a beast, and it's kind of pushing the envelope of another archetype for Hunter again. So that's all to the good.
This card with Houndmaster is disgusting.
Ooh, yikes.
Yes,
that's
like it a lot.
Absolutely terrifying. It's like Giant Sandworm has another minion that works like Blessing of Kings, and it can attack more than twice. It's like, what? Triple Wind Fury.
All right, let's keep moving.
Eater of Secrets. I love the card art for this. This is probably my favorite card art so far, by the way.
Cool.
It's a rare minion, 2/4 for 4 mana. Battlecry, destroy all enemy secrets, gain +1/+1 for each.
Sorry, Mysterious Challenger.
Proves that they still care about the wild format. They're thinking about it. They're thinking about the prevalence of Secret Paladin, and they're not just going, well, it's not going to be in basic anymore. So
I think that was the best opinion on this card that I've heard from anyone. Even though, like, you hear people saying, oh, well, Secret Paladin's a thing in Standard still, and da-da-da-da-da, and Eater of Secrets is going to be that. Well, Joe and I were talking, it's like, it's kind of just like a little bit more balanced version of Kezin that still just sucks to have in your deck unless you go up against Freeze Mage. And then if you play against the Secret Paladin in Standard, it's like you're going to win anyways, because we don't think that they're going to be that great. But Eve's point was...
for 4.
Yeah, you just don't want to play 2/4 for 4. Plus, Eve was spot on. It's like, this is a fan service card. Like, Blizzard is balancing Standard and Wild. Like, that was the most accurate assumption of this card. So,
I think it's just nice that we have one other tool to combat secrets. I mean, this one specifically goes up against Mysterious Challenger, but it's just nice that we have something other than Kezin that's neutral that anyone can use.
Yeah, we got Flare, we got Kezin, we got Eater of Secrets.
It's just important to keep like Freeze Mage in check, right? Because Freeze Mage can be really oppressive, and it's really unfun to play against. So cards like this mean that you can't just like, everyone can't just play Freeze Mage on ladder, because like you just put Eater of Secrets in your deck, they try to ice block, and you play it and you win the game.
Yep.
I think it's slightly worse than Kazan sometimes, but I think it's way better against like other Secret decks like Secret Paladin and Hunter.
Yeah, imagine if this thing is going up against, like, if traps were a trap hunter was a thing, and they're running like Bear Trap, Explosive, and Freezing, or Snakes, or something like that, and you eat 2 secrets. I think that's the ideal situation in Standard right now, is go up against Freeze Mage, play this. Go up against any deck that runs secrets, and you eat 2 of them. That's the goal. Because it's 4 mana. You really want to get this thing to a 4/6. Like, that's disgusting.
You can play a 4 mana 3/5 plus destroy a secret. Like, that's pretty good.
I think that's fair, but I'm saying, like, you're going to get max value. Like, this thing's going to be just gross if you can get 2 secrets off of it.
Yeah, just the problem with these cards is a lot of time you're playing against Druid and you get no secrets, and then you just have a bad card.
Yep. And then your Eater of Secrets gets eaten.
This could see a lot more play than we think, depending on what the meta is. Because honestly, we're all looking to see Druid change.
Yeah, Eve, didn't you say initially that
Druid is supposed to be going away? So
I remember, Eve, you saying something internally when we were talking that we still haven't seen any secrets yet. Like, we're probably still anticipating that there's going to be a few new secrets in the set.
Yeah, I haven't heard even a whisper of a secret.
I see what you did there.
All right, on that note, let's see the next card. All right, Joe, what's the next card? It's the Druid card.
Oh, you're going to make me pronounce this?
Yes. That's why I did
Claxy
it.
Amber Weaver, 4-mana druid card. It's rare. It's a 4/5, and then it has a battle cry. If your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, then gain 5 health. So it'll be a druid looking at Twilight Drake. Basically, it'll be a 4/10.
Yeah, this is not gain 5 health to your hero. It doesn't say that.
Yes, I misread that when I first read it. I thought it was a give you health. Didn't realize it was buffing itself.
I want to propose a theory. I think that for one, I'm excited that we have Cthulhu buffing cards that are specific to each class. I don't know that every class is going to get it, but I wouldn't be surprised. So I'm excited about that. But I think that this gives us an insight into what they're trying to propose Druid can be once combo gets nerfed. So think about this. We've got this, which is a 4/10 for 4, which is nuts. We've got Ancient of War, which typically is a 5/10 with taunt. And then we've got a lesser used card, the Mark of Nature, which is the 3-cost spell that you can add 4 health and taunt. So I'm wondering if we're going to get I'm wondering if we're going to get a ton of cards that just have stupid amounts of health and can trade into a bunch of stuff. I don't know how effective that's going to be as an archetype, but that might be what we're seeing.
This card is really good, though. If Druid Cthulhu decks is a thing, this card will be part of the reason for it. A 4/5 on 4 is fine. People played Chillwind Yeti forever, and some people still play Chillwind Yeti. So the fact that this card is at worst a Yeti is really good. The one thing to note is that it will not, most of the time, be a 4/10 on turn 4. It's pretty unlikely you're going to buff your Cthulhu that well to be able to play a 4/10 on 4. If you can, then this card's going to be nuts.
Well, and that's probably the drawback.
2 of the 2/2 buffs.
Right.
I think they revealed, and then you play this on 4. Like that'll be like the nuts in Cthulhu Druid.
Yeah,
that was a poker term, by the way, for people. It means that you get the god draw.
Yeah. All right, so I'm just gonna put in my 2 cents. This card, first of all, card art again. Gosh darn, good art. Dang. I'm going to be just doing searches, like we're going to get to this later, but you can search by artist now. I'm going to look up this guy. This is cool stuff, man. This card in Golden we haven't seen yet, and I'm hyped as heck to see what this card looks like in Gold. Like that filigree looking explosion of light and the amber. It looks really cool. All right, so that's the first part. Second part, this has ramifications for every Cthulhu card that's coming out still. Okay, so we know that not all classes are going to get a Cthulhu card. We do know that there are 16. Yes, they're not going to give it. They said that not every class will get a Cthulhu specific class card.
Interesting.
They also said,
sure?
Yeah, they said that on the mainstream when they did the announcement. They said not everybody's going to have a Cthulhu card, but the neutral set will have them for sure.
I don't remember hearing that, honestly. I remember hearing that not all of the old gods were going to have, like, they weren't going to have specific minions, just Cthulhu. But I think that every class is going to have one Cthulhu card. Yeah,
we'll see what chat does in the next couple minutes or what other feedback we are. But I'm going to state that as fact with the ability to become wrong, because I think that I'm really, really confident that that's true. And I talked with Ventico for like 2 hours about this last night, and he was on the same page. So I don't know. But we'll get there. So anyways, if that is true, we've only seen 2 cards that interact with Cthulhu that are class cards. And one is Warrior. We'll get to that next, actually. And then we have this one, which is Druid. That being said, if there are 16 total cards, let's say worst case scenario, if I'm right, 8 cards, only one class gets left out of having a Cthulhu card. That means 8 of the 9 classes get a Cthulhu card. That means that there's only 8 cards left to interact with Cthulhu in the neutral set. We also don't know if any of the Cthulhu cards that interact with Cthulhu happen to be a legendary as well, which that would be very interesting to me if we have a Cthulhu card that is a legendary unique minion that interacts with Cthulhu himself. AKA something like, I don't know who Cthulhu's like high warlord general is, but I know that Yogg-Saron has General Vazax, and General Vazax is like the last boss before you get to Cthulhu. So I'm certain that if they did a legendary, it'd be something like that. It'd be like
maybe something that summons him.
Yeah, it could be something like that. Very powerful card. Say, hey, add Yogg-Saron to your hand and win the game. So, anyways, so that being said, if we look at these Cthulhu cards, we also know that every Cthulhu card so far does not always buff Cthulhu if it has Cthulhu in the card text. It gives you a bonus based off of Cthulhu. So we have both ways. We have Cthulhu gets buffed. your Cthulhu, blah, 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 gets this, and this, wherever it is, okay? And then you have cards like Caloxite, Amber Weaver, and the next card, which we'll just use this to transition, which is the Ancient Shield Bearer for Warrior. It says, if your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack, gain 10 armor. And it's a 7 mana 6/6. So these are like totally different styled cards, but they do give you a benefit for playing Cthulhu and not just directly tie that to Cthulhu, but rather directly tie it to you.
I think it's important to note that it's the class cards that are that way. So the two class cards we have so far give you a bonus based off of how you buff Cthulhu, and all the neutral minions buff Cthulhu. So we can assume based off what we know that that's where they're going to go. They could totally change it, but it's interesting.
It makes sense to me. It's possible that they don't see every class being able to make a good Cthulhu deck, so you could be right about them only putting Cthulhu specific minions with classes that they think would work well with the Cthulhu deck.
Or the other too good classes, already and doesn't
or the other classes specific. Would do well with the other old gods.
I think that's correct.
Because there are 3 other old gods that we haven't seen yet, which might work better depending on whatever their ability is with a different class.
Yeah, so if I backtrack and say that Eve is correct in her assumption that every card or every class does get a Cthulhu card, that means that the neutral set only has 7 left, or 7 total cards available to them to interact with Cthulhu. Important to note, it's not really relevant how many they get, because every card they introduce effectively, if it's a non-legendary, you get 2 of them. So you can have like 2 really, really powerful of those minions, and they just come in because you have like, oh, this one, like the Beckoner of Evil, that's my 1 Cthulhu card. No, you put 2 of those in there. Those things are sick. Like, give Cthulhu 2/2. Are you insane? And then you have the one that we're gonna go next here, Cthulhu's Servant. The 4/2 for 4 mana, Divine Shield. Battlecry, give your Cthulhu 2/2/2 wherever it is. So goodbye, Shredder. Hello, Cthulhu Servant. Am I right?
It's pretty cool.
This is a like sticky minion.
Like, this is like a balanced card. Like, it's like like it's very rare. Like, I feel that way. But this seems about like average. Like, it's good enough to play in a Cthulhu deck. It's not like so overwhelming that you're just going to play it as your 4-drop in every deck, most likely. But it's good. It's not like so bad because of the Cthulhu effect that you feel like you're making your deck worse for playing it. So
yeah, yep.
4 attacks is powerful. Divine Shield makes it sticky. Yeah, it's good.
The fact that it can trade up so easily, and with Divine Shield, it doesn't matter so much that it's like a Scarlet Crusader in Arena. You pick it every time because it's a 2-for-1. You know.
So my question to Joe specifically about this card is, if you're not running a Cthulhu deck in Standard, would you run this over other 4-drops right now?
No,
can't. Because like it's pretty bad in some matchups. Like, it's pretty bad against Zoo, right? Because they'll just run like a 1/1 and then a 2/1 into it. It's good against like Control Warrior and stuff, but there are matchups that you don't want it in. And I think a lot of times you'd probably just rather have Yeti. Or like Senjin Shield Master or something.
So this is on par more with Yeti than Shield, the Shredder, right? Probably more.
You heard it here on the show. Yeti. Joe is thinking that Yeti and Senjin Shield Master are coming back to the meta.
I like Shield Master.
Different 4-drops, but at the moment, those are like the 2 probably most solid 4-drops in Standard. As far as I can think, like certain classes have like their own better 4s, like Savage Combatant and stuff like that, but. Like neutral 4s, I think those are the best 2 right now.
All right, guys, we're going to blast through these last 3 cards because they are the same element, like the idea and the concept behind them. So we have a mage spell that's 0 mana, Forbidden Flame. Spend all mana, spend all of your mana, deal that much damage to a minion. We have a priest card, 0 mana, Forbidden Shaping. All of these cards are epic, by the way. And spend all of your mana, summon a random minion that costs that much. And then paladins have a 0 mana Forbidden Healing. Very cool Cthulhu-like figure on this one. Spend all your mana, restore health for twice that amount.
So everyone was asking the Hearthstone Twitter feed what would happen if someone played a Lotheb. And what happens is you don't have access to that mana. So whatever you have left over will be the mana you're spending.
Right.
So it'll take 5 off. And then if you have anything above that, that's what
This
you
will
have
only
access
affect
to.
those wild players, however. So at least until we have another card that interacts with spells like Lotheb does in this current set, then we don't have current replacement for it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Right.
I like that there's a different kind of effect, even though we're not getting a new keyword with this expansion, to see a few cards that are interesting and doing different things on this. I don't know that any of these are extremely playable yet, but it's interesting that they're doing something like this. I keep looking back to what are classic cards that they may be coming to, and with the forbidden healing, I mean, there's so many heal cards with Paladin already. It was kind of weird to see that one. So I wonder if there's going to be some kind of fatigue pally that comes out of that or something.
Yeah, the language for these cards, real quick before Eve goes, the language for these cards, I actually misread for Forbidden Flame when I was talking with Joe. I thought it'd be really, really great for freeze mages. But the fact of the matter is this has to target a minion for the spell damage.
Yeah.
And then the Forbidden Shaping is a card that just interacts with a random minion of cost, so it's still not great. So even though it sounds like a good unstable portal, it's really not. And then
in standard, it'll be a little more predictable, right?
To be honest.
Because in standard, you're going to have a smaller card pool, so you're going to have a little bit better idea of what's going to come out depending on how much mana you're spending.
That's true to a certain extent.
The reason it's good is because in Priest you float mana so much. Like you float mana like someone's paying you to do it. So having a card that can prevent you from floating mana is
Joe,
probably
can you explain your term floating mana?
It means like a lot of times priests just don't play anything. By floating mana, I mean the mana you just don't spend in your turn. So like a lot of times on turn 2 as priest, like both of you are 30 health. You don't have a minion to play. So you just like hero power and heal for 0. So you float 2 mana because you did nothing with it. So instead, maybe you can play this in combat early decks or against like Druid a lot of the time. Like you don't have like a turn 6 or 7 play. Like you play Light Bomb on 6 and you don't have a drop to play on 7. Instead, maybe you can play this. I don't know if it'll be that good, but it's definitely worth a try.
Important for Control Priest too is a lot of times they'll just spend their turn 8 sometimes just, or even turn 10 past that, just healing themselves in the face and passing. So this is pretty interesting. It's like, well, I can heal myself and get an 8 mana minion. And get Andrew's dog out of it, or I can.
Sorry.
But yeah, like that's the kind of the concept. And then lastly, if you go to the Forbidden Healing, this card's language, even though we don't have it necessarily translated from Taiwanese yet, it sounds like this card interacts only with the Paladin's own health and not the minion's health.
I would disagree with that. It says restore health. And in other,
we're not sure about the translation because
but we don't know. What the translation
I know.
is yet.
I know. I'm saying from what I can see on here, it seems like it's restore health to any target.
Okay.
Because usually it says restore health to your hero. So because that's missing, I would argue that it's to any target. But we'll see what actually happens when we get the translation.
I like the priest one the most because I think, like Joe said, they're seeing this in priests. They're seeing something that happens when priests play a lot of their different decks is that they're sitting there without something to spend their mana on some turns. And then they give you this card. They're like, here, do something with your excess mana. So I think that's really great. It reminds me of Magic the Gathering where they have cards that say spend X amount of mana and have a return based on how much
return
mana
on
you
your
spend.
X investment.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's really cool.
I think it's cool. It's flexible.
It's
something that they couldn't do in Magic the Gathering, which is like summon a random minion.
Yeah.
And like a sideboard of cards that you just randomly pick one out of.
Yeah.
Wouldn't work very well. But
I do like how
game,
I do like that too, Eve. Like I'm on board with that. I do like that they can do a little bit more of this flexible stuff with the creative card game and emulate a lot of the cool stuff from Magic at the same time. And then